Welcome to another edition of the Digital DJ Tips podcast. It's a Your Questions edition this time, which means we've got questions from our fantastic student community who are live with us. And so we're going to get feedback, we're going to get interaction, we're going to have some fun, as we always do, as we answer questions across the 5 big areas of DJing: gear, music, mixing, performing, and success. So without any further delay, let's get stuck right in with our students to this month's student questions. Our first question today is from Trevor, who wants to know if he can go all James hype at his bars, birthday gigs and so on. I'll read out what Trevor says. He says, "Hi, I need a bit of realistic or honest advice here, people. Please be nice. I see DJs mixing songs left, right and centre with EQs and with spins and with tricks and with on the beat vocals and with big drops, things like house and tech and EDM, etc. But here's my problem. I tend to DJ bars and birthdays and this kind of thing. So I generally DJ commercial and radio songs for like 5 or 6 hours at a time, as that's what they seem to want. So am I being realistic, wanting to be able to do a James hype routine with commercial or radio songs for this amount of time?" It's a great question, Trevor, and it cuts to the heart of what DJing is all about, because there's a few things to unpack here. The first thing is, there's not one kind of DJing. DJing is far too broad a thing nowadays for it to be easily pigeonholed into 1 or 2 or 3 types of DJing. It just isn't the case anymore. So whereas in the past you would have clearly your radio DJs who were very good at presenting, basically, you would have your wedding DJs who, again, there was a kind of presenting involved because it involved the microphone, but also it was about getting several generations on the dance floor by playing whole songs. And then you'd have your club DJs who were playing a single genre and who were mixing. And of course, let's not leave out the hip hop DJs who were often playing with vinyl and were scratching and dropping beats and breaks and so on. But they didn't really meet until the last few years, when everything's kind of become a mishmash, right? You can hear DJ mixes on the radio. Wedding DJs are doing Instagrammable moments where they're doing all the clever stuff. Club DJs are expected to play more than one genre, so they're having to learn the open format skills of the hip hop DJs. And so the melting pot continues. This has been hastened by social media, because people are seeing a bit of everything. There's no real tribalism in music anymore. Everyone's kind of into a bit of this and a bit of that, right? But also it's been hastened by digital DJ gear, making a lot of the things which were very, very hard in the past a lot easier now. Now I say a lot easier, it's still not easy. You know, a little joke we have here at Digital DJ Tips is if someone approaches you and says, "Hey, you know, DJing's easy nowadays. All you're doing there is pressing buttons." You can just stand back and say, "Go on then, you have a go." You'll soon see that it isn't quite so easy. Not that we need telling that. So all of these things mean that DJing has kind of become a bit blurred around the edges. And I, by the way, think that's a good thing. We have a course here at Digital DJ Tips called Mixing for Mobile and Wedding DJs, which really hits what you're talking about here, Trevor, on the head. Because how do you do it with that kind of music? How do you do it with your 3-minute pop songs that have no intros and no outros? Well, you can, and that's what we teach in that course. But I think to start with, I want to question, should you? I'll give you an example here. So I DJ'd recently with some 7-inch singles from the 80s at a retro gig. I played after all the bands had played their cover version sets where they were playing just all the classic songs from the 80s, 90s and so on. And I played a 1980s and 90s 7-inch single set, right? There was no need for me to do anything clever because it wasn't what was expected. It wasn't what DJs did at that time. I was just keeping stuff on the beat. I was just keeping the timing going and picking the records very carefully, right? But on the way to that gig, I walked past a little bar which was with an outdoor area, a terrace, where there was a DJ. He had a really nice sounding portable PA system, but it had lovely bass, really nice sounding basically, with a little DJ controller, and he had 10 people dancing, just dancing in the street, you know, little terrace, few tables, at kind of before it was dark, right? So these people had gone out after work and they were into it. And this DJ was playing house music. This DJ was playing some stripped down, really funky house and was looping and extending the breakdowns and using filters and stuff, and it sounded brilliant. And I thought, how different that is to what I'm about to do. And I got a bit scared. I was like, oh no, as we always do before gigs, all this irrational stuff, am I doing something anyone would care about now, etc., etc. But that's a kind of another story, the confidence stuff and all that. By the way, the gig went fine. But the point I'm making here is that there are all these different types of DJing that are suited to different types of music, and it's up to us to choose what to do at any time. So the first question you should ask yourself, Trevor, is, do people want it? Do people really want you to James hype for 6 hours with commercial music in front of a crowd of people in a bar or at a wedding or at a birthday? I would suggest they don't. I would suggest they want you to do a professional job, to play the music they want to hear. A lot of the time when you're a mobile DJ, when you're an event DJ, they haven't come for you. They've come to meet people, they've come to celebrate the event, and your job is to provide what I sometimes call the soundtrack of their lives. And so you're not there to educate, you're not there to show off your skills and for people to say, I'm going to follow that DJ around social media and around the town, and I'm going to go and see that DJ again. That's not what it's about. It's about you playing the music they want to hear, that triggers the memories and triggers the times they've had with the other people in the room in the past and makes them all feel really good about everything. Always helped by a beer or two, right? And so what I always say to our students is, learn the tricks that we teach, whether you buy our courses from James Hype or Jazzy Jeff or from ourselves. Learn the tricks that we teach, practice them at home, have 1 or 2 tricks up your sleeve that you can perform throughout a long set, and just get on with picking the right music for the people in front of you right now the rest of the time, using the basic skills that we teach in courses like our Mixing for Wedding and Mobile DJs course, that are simple and effective, and they work. And the other thing that we always reassure our students is that students sometimes say, well, look, how can I play, as you say here, Trevor, for 5 or 6 hours with that kind of high energy style that we see people at festivals doing, like James does it at festivals and so on? Well, you can't. You're not expected to. James would not play a 5 or 6 hour set like that. And if he did, he would fall back on simpler DJing for a lot of it. And so you have to remember that these skills trickle down into your DJing. You might not think they do, but as soon as you're starting to learn some of the more advanced skills of DJing, you'll find your basic DJing becomes tighter and more adventurous, and you try you take more risks. And you'll find that just like when you learn a foreign language, the more words you know, the more comfortable you are. The more tricks you know in DJing, even though you're not going to use 80% of them in 80% of your sets, the more comfortable you are doing the basic stuff. And when you do hear 2 tunes and think, on the fly, I could have a go with those 2 tunes, I think I can do something here, you'll be far more likely to do it. And when you pull off tricks like that you've invented off the cuff, it feels great. But it's always back to the people who you are playing for. Do they want that? And most of the time they don't. And if 80% of your DJ sets, or even 95%, are just doing the basics well, save the fireworks for the final 5% would be my tip there. Thank you very, very much for that question, Trevor. We're going to move on to talk a little bit of DJ software tech now for our next question. This came in from Torius, who says, please talk a bit on Rekordbox 7's track analysis with and without mixed in key. Is it useful to use both mixed in key and Rekordbox 7 analysis in 2025? Thank you, from Torius in San Diego. So this question is about one of the biggest benefits of digital DJing. It really is. When digital DJing became a thing, and I've been writing about it, recording about it, teaching it ever since the ground zero, year dot, whatever you call it, ever since it became a thing, I've said that there's 2 really big things in it, and there's lots more actually, but the 2 right from near the beginning were having all your tunes with you all the time, so you never had to worry about not having something with you, but being able to mix in key. So initially, it was just being able to lock the key of the song you were DJing with, and using clever things like the Camelot wheel, and that's something you just suggested there, Torius, and so on, in order to know what would mix with it. And with any given track in your collection, there's about 20 or 25% of tracks that will mix with that in key, right? So being able to lock the pitch while you move the tempo means suddenly you can mix in key using this special technique. Fantastic. And so in order to be able to do that, you need the key information. And what happened next was we could actually alter the pitch or alter the key of our tracks at the same time as altering the tempo. And then suddenly you can mix pretty much anything into anything, especially when you apply our fuzzy key mixing method, which Digital DJ Tips has taught for many, many years now, and which has actually been incorporated into the key sync buttons on some DJ gear, which is great. In short, key mixing is great, but you still need to know the musical key of the tracks in your collection in order to do it in the first place, which is taking us to Taurus's question, which is, what should I use? Should I use the key analysis in my DJ software, in this case Rekordbox, or should I use it in Mixed in Key? Now, Mixed in Key was a piece of software that predated this stuff being added to DJ software. Back in the day, you couldn't do this, and then Mixed in Key came out with a piece of software that would add this information to your tracks, and all of a sudden you could. And they kind of were the only way of doing it for a long time, until the DJ software companies, Serato and Rekordbox and Traktor and so on, started to add it to their software, and all of a sudden Mixed in Key kind of appeared a little bit redundant because you could do it in your software, so why would you use Mixed in Key? Mixed in Key is still around. They're adding features all the time. We just wrote up a new feature they've added on our blog over at digitaldjtips.com recently that has let you really quickly flick through your tracks looking for great mixes and great key mixes and great mashups and so on. It's a really nice new feature. So they're still innovating. They're still adding things that aren't in DJ software. But nonetheless, the key feature, and it's there in the name, Mixed in Key, is now in all DJ software. So it's a great question from Taurus. Should I still use Mixed in Key, or should I use Rekordbox 7, or both? So here is the truth. When it comes to Rekordbox, in particular, it's quite clunky to get the information that Mixed in Key can give you into the software. It's a bit easier with other software like Traktor, Serato and Virtual DJ. With Rekordbox, it's a bit harder, which will skew you slightly compared to the advice I'm going to give now. The advice I'm going to give now is if you're really, really into key mixing, if you're really into harmonic mixing, if it's like completely at the heart of everything you do, there's an argument for still using Mixed in Key, because it gives you some extra stuff that you can't get with the other platforms. Like if there's more than one key in a track, it changes key, it will tell you that stuff. It's also got a built-in keyboard, literally, so you can play chords, and if you think it's got a track wrong, you can check and all this stuff. So it is pretty good. But generally, for most people, using the key analysis built into your DJ software is easier, and it is fine. It will do a great job. So for most people, but particularly for you, Taurus, as a Rekordbox 7 user, where it's quite hard to get that Mixed in Key info into your song, I would say that sticking with your DJ software is probably best. That said, the real rule of thumb is don't mix and match. So some people end up with music in their collection that has had the key analyzed by Serato, by Traktor, by Rekordbox, by Virtual DJ, by Mixed in Key. And that is the big error, because they all have to play with this fact that choosing the musical key of a track is an art as much as a science. And so Yakov, who is the software developer who came up with Mixed in Key in the first place, I was having a chat with him recently, and he was saying, you know, you give the same piece of music to 100 professional musicians and they will argue forever about what key it's in. So if professional musicians can't agree, then DJ softwares won't agree. But if you always ask the same professional musician, you're going to get the same answer, right? If you always ask the same piece of DJ software, you're going to get the same answer. To give you one very simple example, a track could be in a major key, which sounds all happy and light, or a minor key. It sounds kind of driving and menacing. It doesn't really matter which major or minor key it's in, as long as they're the ones that are completely related and use the same notes. It's called the major and the relative minor. But different DJ software will give you a different result based on that, whereas the same piece of DJ software will always give you the same result. So for lots of reasons that get too technical to go into here, it doesn't really matter what you choose to use. Probably best to use your DJ software, but always use the same thing for your analysis to save it getting confusing. Another reason for using your DJ software is, I can never reinforce this enough, do not overcomplicate your music library workflow. Do not say, every time I get a new tune, I'm going to run it through Mixing Key, and then I'm going to run it through this, and then I'm going to do that, then I'm going to change its name to this, then I'm going to put it in here, then I'm going to put it in this playlist. And I'll tell you why. Because you'll do it for the first 6 days or 6 weeks or 6 months even if you're really diligent. And one day it will fall by the wayside. You'll be in a rush to get tunes into your collection, to get out to a gig or whatever. And the day that happens, something else will happen in your life and you'll completely forget about your music library for a week or two. And then you'll come back and the same thing will happen. You're in a rush to get to a gig, and before you know it, you've got a library that's full of tunes that you've done this clever thing with and full of tunes you haven't. And you'll just think, you know what, I can't be bothered anymore. And you'll end up starting from scratch. Much better to have a really simple, robust set of practices that you go through every time you add a new tune to your library that you know you're going to stick with for life. In our Access All Areas lifetime membership course program here at Digital DJ Tips, there's a whole set of what we call deep dives and mixed deconstructions, like hundreds and hundreds of lessons you can't get anywhere else. It's only for those students. One of them in there, a really, really popular one, is called our Music Library Blueprint, that tells you exactly how to do what I just described. If you're really serious about getting this right, then go and have a look in there if you are one of those students, because there's some really useful info in there. And so thank you for that. Taking a basic music theory skills course can help with knowing about this when it comes to transitions, says Don in the comments. It certainly can. If you are a musician, you're going to find this useful. However, you've got these little things on either side of your head called ears. If it sounds good, do it. If it doesn't, don't. Mixmaster G in the comments live, we have students live here as ever on the recording of this, says it's more important to always use the same analysis across all tracks. And EJ Weston agrees, 100% true. You're not comparing apples with oranges in this way. And I'm in full agreement with you there as well. So we're going to now move on to our next question from a Digital DJ Tips student this month from Mateus. And this is a question about one of the biggest things that can trip up amateur DJs, which is distortion, which is driving your gear so hard that it sounds horrible. So Mateus says, I've got a question about digital signal handling in DJ software, specifically avoiding clipping, which is the digital version of distortion, when trying to also protect my PA system. So this is Mateus's question. I understand you should limit input and output signals to below 0 dB with headroom for EQ and effects. What that means is that if you limit it, so if you limit your levels so that when you add effects and when you turn up your EQs, your bass, your mid and your treble, you've still got a little bit of room so you're not distorting when you're doing those things. And so I understand that, says Mateus. However, in older versions of my software, and Mateus is a Traktor user, I could really push the channels into the red without it sounding too bad, while doing the same thing in Virtual DJ produced terrible distortion. So what's actually happening in these circumstances? Are there differences in the way the different platforms handle this stuff? And give me some practical advice. So here we go then. I will reiterate what we've taught for 15 years at Digital DJ Tips about this. When you push the meters on your DJ gear, and that doesn't matter if it's the DJ software, if it's your DJ mixer, or it is the meters on the actual speakers you're plugged into, which is quite often just a red LED that will flash red when you're pushing it too hard. When you push any of those things into the red, you are playing too hot or too loud for that piece of equipment. And that piece of equipment will do one of two things, whether it's software, whether it's hardware, whatever. It will do one of two things. One, it will sound bad. Or two, it will kick in a circuit which is designed to protect the equipment and to protect any equipment further down the line, called a limiter. And the limiter will stop the loudest parts of your signal being so loud. So what you're doing then is pushing the quietest bits higher, but the loudest bits aren't getting any louder. And you are compressing the audio into a smaller and smaller range of volumes. It's called lowering the dynamics of the audio. It's something that producers do anyway to make their tracks sound loud overall. And then you're doing even more of it. It's very tiring on the ear. It's not making your music any louder. It is making your music sound worse. So even though some systems will let you get away with it, and Pioneer DJ is notorious for letting you play in the red without it really sounding that much worse, it is starting to sound worse. And you're just setting yourself up, as you say, for when you then decide to change the EQs and add a bit more bass or something, or add an effect which layers more sound over the top, you're setting it up for that to sound even worse. Stay out of the red at every stage and you will sound better. It's a good habit to get into anyway, but it's a really good habit to get into for when your DJing starts to take off and you start to play in venues where it's not just you. And trust me, what a lovely experience when it's not just you. Because the sound engineer, the audio engineer in those venues will love you as a DJ if you don't push things too hard. It makes that person's job so much easier and they will remember you. And one thing you want when you're playing gigs where you're getting paid and when there's lots of other DJs around is to be remembered for the right reasons. And so do take this advice, do not push past 0 and keep out of the red. It doesn't matter whether it starts to sound bad or not. You are doing the best practice by staying out of the red. EJ Weston says unity, unity, unity. Unity is another word for 0 decibels. It's keeping everything right on 12 o'clock normally where the click is. And so, yes, I agree completely with you there. So that's simple advice, Matthias. So another thing I can advise you is if you want to know where this sweet spot is, where you're playing as loud as possible without distorting, then turn up the first volume control that you've got. So say you've got your DJ controller or mixer, it's normally the gain or the level right at the top of, right above the low, mid and high EQs. There is one called gain or level. Turn that up so that whatever meter is monitoring that is at the loudest part of your loudest record is playing, just so it's just kissing the red every now and then turn it down a tiny bit so it isn't. That's now set well. Now turn up the output meter on your mixer so that the big master meter is doing the same. Loudest part of the loudest record, and it's just kissing the red, and then turn it down a tiny bit so it isn't. And then if you have control over the next mixer, maybe it's the club's mixer that's next after your controller, or maybe you're going straight to a PA, turn that up, and it's going to get loud now, but turn that up until it's just kissing the peak or the red, and then turn it down a little bit. Now your system is set as loud as it can go without distorting. Now your job as a DJ is to control the overall volume in the venue with the final volume control that you can physically reach. Right? So if your PA system is miles away, you can't physically turn the venue up and down there. So the next one you can reach could well be on the club's mixer or on your DJ controller. Whichever the final one in the chain that you can reach is, that's your master volume for the venue, right? And all the other controls you do what you want with, as long as you don't push into the red. So by following this rule, you will be beloved of any audio engineer that happens to be there, but also you'll be learning best practices for life. Fantastic. I'm going to move on to a question from Bob. So Bob is talking again about sound in venues, but Bob's got a completely different question. And this is a question that comes up when you're starting to play real gigs in real venues. So Bob says, I had my first gig at a new venue recently. It went well and I got booked for a monthly slot. Well, firstly, fantastic. Well done, Bob. Bob says it's a small cocktail bar and it's got a decent sound system, but I'm positioned where I can't hear properly for mixing. And this is so normal, by the way, in smaller venues. They only have a Pioneer RX2, but it's got no monitor. So my question, says Bob, is 1, is it bad etiquette to bring my own monitor? And for those of you that are listening to this who aren't actually active DJs, or you're just getting started, or you're just interested, your own monitor is a speaker you have really near to you that is pointing at you, not at the audience, that allows you to hear what you're doing. Is it bad etiquette to bring my own monitor? And if it isn't, what's the best small or cheap solution? Fantastic question. So no, Bob, it really isn't bad etiquette to bring your own monitor. It's a really good idea because you can beat mix better, but more importantly, I think you can hear what you're doing. You can get lost in the music and you can really vibe off the music. If you haven't got a decent way of listening to it, then it's not so much fun. Now, a lot of DJs will say, you know what, I don't bother with that. I just mix in my headphones. They'll use either the split cue function on the gear, if it has it, which will put the master in one ear cup and therefore in one ear, and the thing that you're getting ready in the other one, right? Which, if you think about it, is similar to having a monitor speaker on one side and your headphone on the other, but you're just replacing the monitor speaker with an ear cup in your headphones. So that's one way of doing it. It's sometimes called mono split, and that can work. Or all DJ controllers nowadays, in fact, like 99% of them, have a knob which will mix what's in your headphones between the thing you're getting ready and between the thing the audience is hearing. So by manipulating that knob, you can do the same thing as well. A lot of DJs are happy to mix like that. It's actually worth learning that anyway, because it means you can practice at home late at night when everyone else is in bed, right? Or any other place where you have to mix quietly, like on a plane or in a hotel room or whatever. So it's a good skill to have. Personally, I don't like to DJ like that. Personally, I like to have a nice loud monitor in the DJ booth with me. I feel more connected to the party that way. And also, I can turn it down when I don't need it. And then I can listen to what's going on out there without constantly putting my headphones on and off. And then I can turn it up when I do need it. But we're all different. But if you choose to take your own monitor speaker, then definitely it's not bad etiquette. So let's talk about what you can take. So my favorite is a small PA speaker, a really small PA speaker. So my current favorite, which I used at the last gig I played, I used it in front of 1,000 people at a festival, on the stage, on a pole, right next to my head, pointing at me. It was perfect for that job. They had a huge line array pointing out at the audience, but I wanted my monitor close by. And it was the JBL Eon 1 Compact. It's like a small speaker. You can easily carry it with its handle in one hand, easily. It sounds great. You can plug in very, very quickly to the mixer or PA. Like I say, it can fit on a pole, but also it can sit on the floor. It's like multi-use because it's got a wedge shape. And so you can put it on the floor. It's got little feet built in for that, pointing up at you as well. So that's a great one to go for. But there's other ones as well. That basically the smallest battery charged PA speaker you can find. Any of those will work really, really well. So that's what I would recommend. Don't try and take a Bluetooth speaker, right? So some of the Bluetooth speakers, again, JBL make them, but Bose and all those people, don't try and take one of those, even if it has got an audio input where you can plug a wire in, because there will be delay on it. I can't go into it now, we haven't got time, but just trust me, it won't be good enough for DJing with. So a small PA speaker will never have delay on it. And so therefore, that's the best thing to take. Now, this question is a great one. It's from DJ Bigfoot. And DJ Bigfoot's question, in 5 words: why do we mix flat? Now, DJ Bigfoot isn't talking about your EQs being flat, not talking about unity, as one of our students was talking about a second ago. DJ Bigfoot is literally speaking about, why do we DJ with our gear flat, like horizontal? DJ Bigfoot goes on, I can understand turntables being flat, but mixers and controllers don't have to be. I got this idea from studios where the mixers are always angled. I don't want to scratch. I therefore don't see any reason to have my controller flat. I want it angled towards me. So DJ Bigfoot goes on and says, I looked for a few solutions and I found aerobics foam wedges. So these are foam wedges designed for aerobics classes, work really well wedged underneath. And so what a great question. And you know what, DJ Bigfoot, there is no need at all to DJ flat. I mean, back in the days when we used to have record decks set up alongside CDJs, the CDJs were always behind the record decks, but on special cantilever type stands that would angle them fully forward towards you, so you could reach them. And the reason why those mixing consoles in recording studios, you know, the big 24-track mixing consoles and stuff, the reason why they're angled is because they're big. So it was the same thing with DJ gear back in the day. It was spread out over quite a wide area, you know, you had to spread your arms to reach it all. And so therefore having the CDJs behind the record decks flat would have been crazy. Yes, the record decks were flat, but the CDJs weren't. So, you know, this has always been a thing. And interestingly, it is still a thing. And so, yes, you might have had to concoct a solution for yourself, but a lot of DJs will angle their gear. Funnily enough, it's often the smaller gear that they angle, because if you think about some of the bigger DJ gear nowadays, the screens on it, Like I'm thinking things like the Alpha Theta X DJ AZ and the Denon DJ Prime 4 Plus. The screens on them, the screens on this DJ gear are actually already angled, right? So you can put the DJ gear flat on the tabletop or on your worktop or whatever, and the screen's angled towards you, a nice angle for looking at it. But the smaller DJ gear, it isn't. So things like the Prime 4 Plus and the Opus Quad and so on, their screens are flat. So really, when you're looking down on a small piece of DJ gear, you're closer to the bottom of the screen than the top of it. And if there's any light in the room flying around, then it's more likely to bounce off there into your eyes, right? So for the smaller DJ gear, we recommend you can get fold up laptop stands. So if you search portable laptop stand on Amazon or anywhere else, you will see these kind of fold up stands that you can put them into, like, it looks like an oversized, glasses case when you fold them up. But when you unfold these stands, they become a perfect little way of shallowly angling whatever you put on them up towards you, just enough so that it alleviates the problems I just said. And these kind of stands are great for things up to about the size of the Denon DJ Prime Go and smaller DJ controllers and stuff like that. And so if you are using something smaller, then one of those is a great, like, $20 way of fixing the problem. And I totally agree with you. There's no reason at all to have your gear flat. It doesn't matter. So yeah, you've come to the conclusion there and you fixed it for yourself, DJ Bigfoot, without my help. And I'm reinforcing what you said. Good move. Our next question is from Barry, and you share my name. My middle name is Barry, named after my dad. So there you go. Not many people know that. So hello, Barry. Welcome to the show. Barry says, Barry's actually taking our complete DJ course, which is the course that most people start with at Digital DJ Tips. It's the course that's based on our book that covers the 5 steps of DJing. If you've seen our book on Amazon, many people buy this book on Amazon. It's one of the best sellers. You'll know that we cover DJing and we teach DJing in 5 steps: gear, music, mixing, performing, and success. So Barry's taking our complete DJ course, which is the course of the book. And so Barry says, I'm completing the My Success sheet at the beginning of the complete DJ course, as directed by Phil. You're a good student, Barry. You have a gold star. He says, I'm answering the 3rd item. I want to achieve this by blank. And I need to know how many hours it takes to complete the complete DJ course so I can calculate the number of hours per week I need to commit in order to complete the course by achieve by this date. Can anyone provide? Thanks in advance. Okay. So firstly, a few people were helping you out in the student group. So thank you to everyone who was doing that. And they were saying the same thing, really. Don't overthink this, Barry. It's just, the idea is to get you to think about how long you want to spend each week and how long it therefore roughly might take you to do it. I'd say if you're committed to doing an hour or 2 a day, 4 or 5 days a week, you can probably complete the course in about 6 weeks. But there's 2 ways of completing self-served training, which is what DJ training in our platform is all about. It's about coming back to it whenever you've got time, right? That's the beauty of it. There's 2 ways of doing it. The first way is to say, I will complete up to this point today, come what may. If you're lucky enough to have an open-ended day, right, then that's great. But if you're not, if you have to get to work or you have to do something else, and most of us do, then the second approach is I will do an hour today and I will stop where I stop. It's probably best to have a bit of a hybrid approach, right? Because sometimes it's good. It's like reading a book, right? You don't want to stop halfway through a chapter if you can help it, but it's also not realistic to sit down and read the whole book in one go most of the time. So it's the same kind of thing. If you can reach an obvious pause point in a lesson, even if you haven't had a chance to get to the end of the lesson, then that's probably better than just stopping dead on 60 minutes because, right? However, that said, our courses are designed to be modular. They're designed to have, to be easy to pick up and drop again and to follow through bit by bit. So as far as our training goes, it's really up to you. It's a bit like, funnily enough, a lot of you who know me will know that I'm a runner. I do a lot of running, and so I do a lot of running training programs. And I prefer the running programs that say do 60 minutes of this run for 60 minutes. Because I know I can run for half an hour, turn around and come back again, and I'm back bang on 7 a.m. I can get in, I can start getting my kids breakfast and so on. Whereas if it says run for 12 miles or something, I don't know if today 12 miles is going to take me an hour and a half or an hour and 40 or whatever. And so it's easier to have a time on things rather than get to this part, the end of the chapter or the end of the video or whatever. But that's just me, right? So in truth, Barry, fill in your success sheet with a guess and then come back at the end. And at that point, you can see how well you did. And if you finished it, trust me, you've done well. Doesn't matter how long it took. So thank you for the question there, Barry. And before we move on, just a couple of comments coming in about people and their views on angling your gear. David says, I recommend getting 2 of those little portable stands that you can buy on Amazon for your some control gear because when I tried one of them on my Prime Go, the right hand play button being down in the right hand bottom corner just causes it to tip a bit. Yes, I have noticed that. I put it a little bit to the left because of that, but yes, you're right, David. Hey, these stands are tiny, and so I think you could be right. And of course, there's different models. Some are bigger than others as well. So thank you for that. And also talking about stuff that we were talking about earlier on is Pioneer DJ's standalone gear from Peter. We were talking about some of the bigger standalone gear with the angles that are pushed towards us on the screens to make them better and so on. But Peter says, talking about that kind of gear, what about the audio quality? No one talks about the audio quality on this gear. Well, the reason for that is the audio quality is pretty uniformly excellent nowadays. They've been improving it with the different iterations. If you buy the standalone gear from these manufacturers, it's all got chips in that mean the audio sounds really good. So you ask particularly about the Pioneer DJ or the Alpha Theta gear, their current standalone range. If you look at everything from the cheapest item, which is the Omnis Duo, it's the little unit from them, moving up through the RX3 to the AZ, the audio quality is best on the AZ, but even on the other two, it's really good. So the reason I think no one talks about the audio quality is that there's nothing to talk about. It just sounds good. The quality of the music files you try and play on it, and we've already talked about it, the gain staging are far more important than the technical ability of the kit nowadays, because the technical ability of the kit nowadays is really good. So that's where we're going to leave it for today. Thank you very much to our students, not only for being there to ask questions and to chip in with extra info, but for funding this whole thing. We're a 100% student funded company. And so therefore this podcast is brought to you courtesy of those people. If you want to become a student and have a question and stay with us, because that conversation went on a lot longer, but we only edit the best bits out for this podcast, then head to digitaldjtips.com. Take a look at our courses and programs. There'll be something that's right for you there. And if you do that, hey, your question could be featured on the very next episode of this. Meanwhile, though, from me, Phil, here in the Digital DJ Tips School Studio, get good, get out there, make the moments. See you next time. Bye-bye for now.